All right, everyone, welcome. Thank you for being here. I wanted to today talk a little bit about the kind of help that we all may be needing in terms of where we are planetarily with all of the shift and the planetary events that are taking place. I've been teaching these classes, as many of you have been with me for over 10 years, a long time. And at no other time have I experienced this kind of strange perception of reality or emotional stability in my core that can dissuade me from my central axis. And I'm going to explain to you how that happens. Many of us are not privileged enough to be on top of the mountain and to be isolated from the world. There was a time when the student on the path of enlightenment would go to the teacher, to the monastery, and spend the rest of his life isolated in the monastery, and there was no and would not come out until enlightenment occurred, or would stay there for that matter sometime for the rest of their lives. We're living in a different world where many of us have to exist in this world, have to work, have to raise a family, have to cover living, have a social life, and do all of this while still trying to be planetary leaders and create a path into the new earth. And that's a challenge in itself. But right now, the fact that we are now facing all of these giant planetary events that are creating quite a bit of turbulence in the ether of the planet and the collective unconscious of humanity, it is important for us to understand how we are to react to them. Because this is something that I am learning as I'm going through these events since 2020. I'm learning more and more how to navigate and how to become emotionally agile to be able to move from these kind of interruption in my serenity and in my peace. One of the things that was always the barometer for me was when I wake up in the morning, I did my spiritual practice as a way to allow me to remain in serenity and in peace. And if an activity was not bringing me into peace, I did not pursue it. I pursued only things that were allowing me to remain in serenity and in peace. So that became like the motivating factor, the thing that was important to me. I had to find what brings me into peace and what brings me into serenity. Now, given what's happening in the world right now, there's so many unknown factors. I was looking at a program recently that was talking about Antarctica and the melting of the last remaining giant icebergs in the South Pole. Siberia right now, as of a few days back, the temperature there was 100 degrees Fahrenheit in Siberia. The temperature in the South Pole was equally warm, and the iceberg there is melting so rapidly that scientists are saying now within 4 years, at the rate it's going, there will be no iceberg. The ice sheet and it will mean flooding and catastrophic events in terms of rising sea level will happen all across the planet. When you have all these things, the tornadoes that just happened in the Midwest over these 6 states, when you have these kind of events, the wildfires, everything else, the peace and the serenity, or Omicron virus and whatever else is happening, all of these, the peace and the serenity that you have in your core gets eroded at. I described it this morning, the sensation. Okay, the best way to describe this is this. It's not like when I wake up in the morning, it's there, okay? It's in my core. I feel it more like a pack of vultures that are rotating around the perimeter or the edging, like a dark cloud, the edging of my consciousness, of my core, of my peace. And sometimes it causes me not to sleep correctly. Like I go to sleep, but I'm not rested. I'm not rested. I wake up exhausted, tired, feeling a malaise and unease that I cannot describe. It is as if my body knows something that my mind is not ready to process. There are so many loud and big things that are happening outside that are out of my control. As a spiritual teacher and a healer, I don't know how to stop 30 tornadoes. I don't know how to remove Omicron virus from the planet. I don't know how to do any of these big things because this is beyond my pay grade. And as such, there is a great sense of loss of control and a great sense of fear that is that sets in on the edge of my consciousness, and it creates a fear of survival. Or better yet, the right word to use is not so much survival, a sense of insecurity. It's not so much survival, but a sense of insecurity. Okay? And a sense of, I have to scan, I have to worry, is this going to be okay? What decision should I make? And then over time, that insecurity begins to penetrate into your field. I'm describing this step by step now. It begins to penetrate into your field, and slowly but incrementally, it begins to create doubt in your core. So that the peace and the serenity you had in your core begins to be infiltrated by these gigantic things, and they are coming and they infiltrated in, and when they come in your core, they begin to create these doubts. In the class this morning, I was talking about that, and one student talked about the fact that she wanted to go see her family in a different country, and she realized she spent a week being tortured and not being able to sleep, exactly what I was describing. And the way you know that this is an external infiltration, and it may feel at the moment that it is coming from spirit, like it's coming from your core and your gut, and it's the truth. It's the absolute truth because you feel it in. The emotion is so strong and so powerful. But if the emotion that's coming in is generating fear and fight or flight response, in all likelihood, it is not of God. It is an Archon infection. It's come from these events that are in the ether and the collective unconscious of humanity, a group body that has now infiltrated inside of you. And if I'm being honest to you, I have to tell you that when the moment these things come in, what it feels like is that there is a yuckiness in my core. And it's so disturbing to me because it's so alien to the way I'm normally, my consciousness exists, that I have to ask myself, what's going on? What the hell is this? And how can I get rid of it? And a lot of time that feeling and that sensations is, and I'm saying this, I'm not saying this is the state that I'm in right now. I'm trying to describe to you, create a narrative, because if you have experienced this, many of you may have experienced this, but you're not, you kind of put it on a shelf in the background, like you're not being conscious about this. I want you to become conscious because as described in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, if you're unconscious about this, you are nothing more than a mental body of unconscious tendencies on emptiness. And that's a state of the environment controlling you, and that's you being trapped on the wheel of samsara, which is the wheel of death and rebirth. Enlightenment is you being a mental body of conscious tendencies, where you become awake and you become aware of the influence, and you learn how to navigate your consciousness and regain your peace and your serenity. I'm trying to describe this to you in great details so that you can begin to catch it when it is happening. Okay? So as these events, these big events are taking place, you again, it creates a weird kind of sleep. You go to bed, you sleep, and it's not because you didn't sleep 8 hours or 12 hours that you get up tired or exhausted. It's because the quality of the sleep is not correct. You're not going deep because there is a worry at the edge of your consciousness. There is a concern, there is a tremendous amount of worry because we're all plugged into the same metrics. And because of all the catastrophic events that are taking place, the group body is extremely concerned. Now, depending on what you're listening to, television program, radio program, newspaper you're reading, conversation you're having with your friends, depending on what you're feeding your consciousness, it could exacerbate this and make it actually worse. Some of you, and some of you may even be on the call and listening to me, some of you are privileged enough where you don't have to deal with the outside world for 3-4 days or sometimes a week at a time, meaning you could shut off the TV, listen to all the things, do your spiritual practice, and remain in peace and serenity all day long without letting the external touch you. I wish I could be on top of the mountain in the monastery or be in a state of privilege where I can actually do this. But this is not the case for me. I have to interact with all of you that are in crisis. By extension, because I'm trying to help you heal, by extension, your problem becomes my problem. And by the same token, I'm also connected with the rest of the world. I'm watching what's happening planetarily. I'm connected to the ether as an intuitive. I sense, and a seer, I sense what's coming before it comes. So I don't have that kind of privilege. And as such, I am able to sense, but I have higher awareness of the mechanism that I'm trying to describe to you now that is being used to infiltrate and create a false access in my core. And when these things come in, suddenly I'm beginning to realize something is there that's very uncomfortable, that feels like it doesn't belong. This is not me. This is not who I am. And what is this thing? For me, when I boil it down, and it always boils down to the same thing, it's insecurities. Insecurity about the future. Where is the planet going? What's going to happen? This is for me. It might be something different for you when you go to, if you ever experience this, it might be something that's slightly different for you. But for me, that's where it boils down to, insecurities. And those insecurities begin to create a kind of crazy narrative and doubt in my head. And that doubt over time, if I let it stew and remain, it becomes weird kind of dreams. It becomes me waking up at a certain hour in the morning and not being able to go back to sleep, and my mind is racing, or it becomes during the day when I wake up to do my practice. I cannot even do my practice because I become so aware of this foreign thing, which is this unease, this insecurity that exists in my core. And it becomes like a splinter, okay? And all I'm feeling is the splinter. I'm like, something is there that doesn't belong. How do I get rid of it? Right? I'm trying to describe this to you so that you're cognizant of this. And if this were ever to happen to you, that you know what to do and you can diagnose it correctly. Because if you can understand it and diagnose it, you can deal with it. Okay? You can process it, you can manage it, and you will know what you're supposed to do. Now that splinter that comes in from the outside is coming from the archons. Okay. And I want to say this because I want you to understand that they are the ones that are agitating the external event. It's not that the external event are not taking place, but how we register it and the level of fear that it creates and the level of concern, how it's propagating in the ether of the planet, how it propagates to mass media. They're agitating this. And thus over time it infiltrates and it goes inside of your psyche. And for a minute there, you're asking yourself, what is this sensation? This is not the way I was yesterday, or this is not the way I was 3 hours ago. What is going on? Right? And you try now, to the best of my ability, to do my spiritual practice. I wish I had a schedule that was so clear and I had the privilege where all I would do for this time during the transition, all I would do, morning till night is just spiritual practice to align my consciousness. I am not that privileged. This is not where I am. I exist in the real world, and I have to work. I have to see clients, deal with real people. And as I do this, I am going to get affected by the outside events, and they will collide with me because I exist in this world. And as a seer, whatever is happening in the collective unconscious will also touch me, and I will sense it and perceive it, and it will create this strange mix in my energy body that I have to find a way to recalibrate, to cleanse, and to purify. Now, out of that dance, out of that ballet, out of that exchange, this is how we will find the path to the new earth. Okay? In some ways, I think the people who are privileged enough to be in a bubble and to exist in a state of bliss all the time, at some point, that influence will collide with them. And because they don't have they have not been negotiating with it the way we've been negotiating, I've been negotiating with it now, they may have a harder time knowing what hits them when there is penetration. Because you make very strong boundaries, but over time, these things penetrate. And when they penetrate, I have to do what I have to do. And again, simple query. When I feel this sensation, the sense of like something is not right, and I found it when I'm becoming aware that something in my core is not correct. The normal practice that I do, the normal meditation and prayers and all the things that I do, torsion field, everything that I do in the morning, I'm finding it more and more difficult to maintain that practice because I'm becoming so aware of that splinter that I can't focus on anything else. Okay, and I ask for help, and I have, and that splinter has a way of also what's the right term, of creating a kind of amnesia where you begin to forget the normal protocol that in any other way that me as a spiritual teacher, I would teach my student, this is what you need to do if you feel this, that, or the other. It takes me sometimes several hours, if not a day, to remember, oh, I'm supposed to do a query, or I'm supposed to release everything into source. I'm supposed to, it takes a minute because the sensation is so, at first it's very subtle. It's like something is not right. And then very quickly it evolves into something very big. And when you become aware that there is an inner, or there is a dialoguing that's happening inside of you that creates uncertainty and doubt and fear. Okay? And the uncertainty is like, am I going to be able to survive this? What's going on? Is this, and your consciousness and your mind is going over this. When it's happening this way, there is penetration. The archon are creating simulacrum. They are creating a sensation and emotion in your core that may look and sound and feel like it's your own emotion. But I guarantee you over 80% of it is not yours. You probably own very little of it, They are just are infecting you and agitating you and trying to veer you off the main path and derail you. And and at this point, I typically am asking all of you to remember the practice of the dialoguing, which is to, when you have these sensations, is to close your eyes. A lot of times the sensation is so weird and so out of the box, got a lot, although it happened several times to me already, but every time it will occur again, I am always asking myself, what is this I am feeling? Like I'm so used to being at peace and in serenity that when it comes in and I'm like, what is this sensation? What is this feeling that feels so alien to me? And then when I surrender and I go deeper, then you begin to do a query where you ask yourself, is this feeling 100% mine? Of course, if the answer is no, it's not, then you know that you're being pushed and influenced. Because the average person on the planet is not going to understand the subtleties that I'm describing to you, and is going to think that whatever it is that they are feeling, that worry and that uncertainty is theirs. And it belongs to them. And in fact, they will not understand that their sleep pattern has been disrupted, and the fact that they are feeling tired and exhausted all the time. It's not just because they are physically tired, it's because they are not acknowledging the menace that exists at the edge of their consciousness that is now entered into their dream mind and causing disturbance. They are blocking it out. Thus, having that kind of subtle awareness allow you to begin to really deal with the core and the root cause, which is to actually let go and to actually surrender whatever that is. It takes me a minute to isolate, to have the conversation, to do the dialogue and realize, and what am I feeling exactly? Because a lot of time you think you're feeling, is it COVID? Is it financial insecurity? Is it that or the other? And then as I boil it down to the same thing for me all the time. Insecurities about the future. And if I can boil it down to this and I can isolate it into one bag, one lump thing, then I can ask Source for help in unburdening me from that 80% that is not mine. I can then surrender it and release it into Source. I can begin to ask my higher power, however I conceive it, to come in, and as I release all attachment, fears, and control, and I surrender everything into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. Any questions, any comments so far? I'm not aware how all of you are sleeping, but my sleep is inconsistent. It is, last night I slept well, but for the most part, again, because of this kind of like cloud at the edge of my consciousness, I can sense a lot of time it disturbed my sleep. I don't go to the depth, or I don't travel to the places in my dream that I'm very aware of that I used to go to, because there is that concern, there is that insecurity that's there. I spoke about a dream 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago, of a tsunami, a dream of a tsunami that I saw. And that dream, again, was may not be a physical tsunami. It could be the emotional thing that I was perceiving on the edge of my consciousness that was coming in. Whichever the case may be, time will tell. time will tell us whether it was a real tsunami or was more of an emotional thing, because water in dreams represent emotions. So as I am navigating myself, and we're all navigating ourselves into the path we're supposed to travel to not only liberate ourselves, but to demonstrate that liberation to the rest of the world. I am strongly reminded of the similarity to what the planet is experiencing right now, to passages in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And let me set up the scene for you. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, there is the description of what is called Samsara, which is the wheel of death and rebirth, and how we are trapped in this wheel and we just keep turning around, reincarnating over and over again, and unable to be released from that wheel. Yet it is not that the opportunities are lacking, they are coming all the time. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead talk about the specific part of transition, or bardo. Bardo is a gap. It means gap or transition between two states of consciousness. It's the space that exists between, let's say, life and death, or between being awake and being in meditation, being awake and going to sleep, or breathing, inhaling and exhaling, and then pausing to change the cycle of the breath. That pause, that change, that gap is bardo. So the book described the bardo of dying and rebirth. In that process, there are several stages that the soul that travels through goes through. The first part is the bardo of death, the bardo of dying, which is you experiencing the great luminosity that everyone sees when they are dying. So that transition initially, most people fail on the get-go, because the light that you see, instead of it being just God or the angels or your family members who are coming to get you to take you into heaven, the Tibetan Book of the Dead describes it very clearly. That light is actually you. You're looking, when you look at that light is your body. And if you can recognize at that very moment of you dying that the light is you, you instantaneously become the Buddha. Because the book describes over and over again, recognition and liberation are instantaneous. Most people fail because the light is so brilliant, it's so extraordinary, and we are so caught up because we're unconscious, we are sleepwalking. Or better yet, you're not awake in the dream. You don't know that you're dreaming. The dream is just taking you. You're not conscious in the dream, and you're not awake. You're a mental body of unconscious tendency on emptiness. This is the way the book describes normal consciousness for the average person on the planet. A mental body of unconscious tendencies on emptiness. Because what they call the true state of being, which is what they call, is that everything exists in emptiness. There exists only at the purest state, there exists only two things, and that is a vast emptiness, which is a womb or a vacuum, if you will, or a medium through which everything gets created, and what creates it is the luminosity. And what you and I and everybody else that exists as a being is, right now on 3D, we are unconscious that we exist in that emptiness. And we are allowing feelings and emotion and sensation to move us through this thing, and we're stumbling through without becoming conscious. To become the Buddha and to become ascended and become enlightened is to become conscious that you exist in this emptiness, in this vacuum, and that you are the luminosity. You're a spark of that luminosity. So the first part is the bardo of dying. 99.999% of people on the planet missed it the first day. On the second day, till the seventh day, there is a stage called the Benevolent Deities. Instead of a bright white light, the second day you experience a blue light. The third day you experience a red light, but again, as bright as the sun. And every day there is another opportunity for you to recognize that the blue light you're experiencing is still you. It's an aspect of you. And this continues yellow, green, until it gets to a rainbow color light at the very end. And once that stage is passed and you still fail to recognize, because many people go through this and they still don't recognize, they're still unconscious, they're still sleepwalking. Then comes in the experience that is called the Benevolent Deities. This is when the Lord Mara, which is the Lord of Death, where all your karma and all your fears are now going to be projected. Instead of light, you're going to experience seeing demons, giant beings that are as tall as the sky, with voices and that have multiple head, multiple arms, that are ripping human beings apart and drinking their blood. Terrifying scenes, voices that all sounds like thunderclap, or coming at you, trying to attack you. And at those moments, there is a dim light that feels like a comfort and an escape from this demon. Most people run toward the dim light. And the person, the monk was reading the Tibetan Go of the Dead, said, do not go into the dim light. Because if you go there, you will have an unfavorable reincarnation. Realize that the demon that's in front of you is not real. It is nothing more than a projection of your own fear in emptiness. You're creating the demon. And more to the point, as the book says, even if the demon were to catch you and try to torture you and dismember you, you cannot die, for you are nothing more than a body of unconscious tendency on emptiness. And the demon is emptiness. It's a projection on emptiness. And emptiness cannot harm emptiness. You will not die. It's an illusion. But most people that are going through this are incapable of shaking the fear and the GBGBs that this being, this giant demon, is creating for them. Most people are incapable of doing this. So what the person who's reading the text to the dying, to the dead, has to do, they ask at that moment, they read a prayer and ask the person to pray to a Buddha, an enlightened being, or their teacher, their spiritual teacher, and ask them to help them overcome the fear and realize it is a projection. Because with the help of this prayer, the illusion of this demon will dissipate. And when it dissipates, right behind the illusion, the book in one particular day, I don't remember which day it was, but they described that the demon that's screaming and etc., and then as big as the sky, and then once the illusion is broken, the being that was as big as the sky transformed into rose petal, and they fall down onto the ground. And right behind it will show up a Buddha that will invite you into enlightenment. This is how you become a body of conscious tendency on emptiness. You have to overcome your own projection and illusion. I don't know if any of you remember Star Wars. I know it's a long time ago. There was a scene when Luke Skywalker went to a swamp planet, and Yoda, he found a teacher that was teaching him the Force, but he had disability in the Force, and Yoda started training him. And his greatest fear was always the Darth Vader. And there was a scene in there where he began to battle. He thought the Darth Vader followed him to the planet, and he began to battle the Darth Vader. And as he battled the Darth Vader, etc., in this with lightsaber, he got to a point where he cornered the Darth Vader and removed the mask from his face. And looking back at him was himself. When he removed the mask, the person that was behind the mask was him. And this is very, very powerful symbology, because it's saying that the enemy, we are the enemy. The enemy is within. And if you can face it and deal with it, and it will allow you to create peace. And the reason I'm saying this, and of course, after that experience of the, before I go into this, but after that experience with the Benevolent Deities, there is the bardo of rebirth, and where they help you find a suitable, or rather a favorable reincarnation. If you still cannot snap out of, because every day, whether it's a benevolent deity, or the bardo of rebirth, even at the moment of rebirth, they show you how to close the womb, and there is still opportunity for you to find the luminosity. You can still become enlightened. But if all fails and you have to reincarnate, they show you how to reincarnate favorably. But the Tibetan Book of the Dead was never studied and read or heard just when you're dying. Buddhists study this book because in life right now, we're living to bardo all the time. And why wait till you're transitioning from dying into rebirth for you to apply these principles, when the same map that was laid out in this book happened, whether you're going into dreams, whether you're, because all bardos present the same opportunities. Whether you're breathing and inhaling and then you pause and you exhale, it doesn't matter whether the bardo is the bardo of enlightenment, the bardo of dream, the bardo of, it doesn't matter. It's the same steps. What is happening in the planet right now? We're transitioning from one dimension, 3D, into 5D and beyond. That is a collective and gigantic bardo experience. The Tibetan Book of the Dead is a map on how to handle this and what events we're going to have to go through. And right now, the planet is past the benevolent deities. Collectively. There have been so many other teachers that have invited us softly into the radiance of their light, asking us to choose the path of enlightenment. We've got multiple invitations before, over and over again, for so many different spiritual great teachers and masters that the planet has failed to follow. What we're experiencing right now with the gigantic events that are happening around the planet is the benevolent deities. And they are loud they demand attention and they create a tremendous amount of fear. But who's creating them? We are, meaning humanity in general. It's a collective fear that is being projected because all of us on earth are a collection of mental bodies of unconscious tendencies on emptiness. We are collectively creating this. And it is up to us to understand that emptiness cannot harm emptiness. But that is not easily done because the loudness and the strength of this emotion, and this is why I went over the various stages of inner feelings, because I want you to understand the true voice of spirit come in stillness, in quietude, and it's a soft sensation of inner peace and serenity and surrender. The doubt, the fear, the sensation, I need to run, I need to panic, I have to do this, that kind of sensation, what should I do? Am I doing it right? That sensation, that feeling, that simulacrum, that's bardo, that's benevolent deities. It doesn't mean when you're in the throes of it and you realize this intellectually, that emotionally you can snap out of it because you recognize it with your frontal lobe. You may have that awareness that I'm being influenced, and it may take you a whole day to actually snap out of it. Because when almost 8 billion people believe in something and you belong to that group body and they have their grip on you, they don't want to let go. It will take, and this is where I want to lead this class, it will take a higher power. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, every time a benevolent day is presented, a new demon, a new experience, there is always a prayer, and it always begins in the dangerous path of the bardo. I pray to the end in the name of the deity. And I ask for safe passage. If you're not connected to your higher power in any way, and I don't care who you pray to. In fact, the Tibetan Book of the Dead talks about this as well. It could be your teacher, it could be, it doesn't matter. And if you have no connection to anything, they ask you to pray to the Buddha of compassion and ask for help. Because the energy is so big and so loud, if you don't have a celestial or an already ascended being to guide you through it, you will not be able to shake it off. Any questions, any comments? Wow. To my astute and quietly.
I'm sorry, Pierre. I was just thinking how to phrase my question.
Okay.
That's why I was posing. I was just thinking because we're working certainly on there's the Dentian work, right, that we're doing.
Yep.
And there is also the safe passage to the new earth. I guess you can pray in for both, whatever shows up for you or stands out for you more, right?
This is different, Ursula.
Right, that's what I'm trying.
This is not Dantian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not talking about the daily practice of going into your core and trying to figure out, if there is something there that presents itself, false belief, false identity. This is not Dantian. I'm
Okay.
talking about external assault from outside forces that are huge and immense, and they typically relate to insecurity and survival.
And it could be archons, it could be the collective unconscious, could be
It's
both.
both. It's both.
Oh, yeah.
What's animating the collective unconscious is Archon.
Yeah, so
The enemy was always and always has been, it's the same adversary.
yeah, but it's the humanity that creates these fears. So I guess I just want to be clear what I'm specifically asking, what I'm praying for, you know.
Okay, let's go back to how I began phrasing this. It's when you're experiencing the splinter in your core.
Right.
This is not a normal Dantian thing that you discover during Dantian. If you discover it during Dantian, you're still dealing with something that's internal to you. This is when you are at peace, your serenity, and then something just shows up out of nowhere and insert itself in your core, and you're beginning to feel like the sense of, I can only focus on this, and what the hell is this? So the initial thing is to query it, to try to discover if it's you or is it from the outside.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
I had that experience for sure.
Okay. But it's not a Dantian thing. A Dantian thing is something that exists in your own subconscious mind. This is not Dantian. It's external.
Yes.
And if it is external, you need to capture exactly, you have to put it into one umbrella. In other words, a lot of time something is there and it's an unease that you cannot describe, because the Archon camouflage it so well that you can't figure out what feelings that you're feeling. Something is there that's uncomfortable, but you cannot initially discover exactly what it is. And it may take you a minute of going back and forth before you finally can identify and say, okay, it is, for me, the sensation is insecurity about my job or insecurity about my survival because of potential viral infection, and whatever, however it shows up for you.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you for a second. My experience was that started showing up lately, actually, where it might start with one of these insecurities that's familiar for me, but then it becomes bigger and quite overwhelming. And then when it becomes bigger, it's like undescribable. So it's like I don't know if it's a mix of things or something might be related, but not quite that out. It's like maybe, let's say if it's surrendering your power, and it's similar to that, but it's not like that.
Right. So thus the query becomes very important. This is why I ask that you query it when it becomes, in other words, it's a slow thing. It progresses. It enters first as one thing. And then when you query it, you ask, is this 100% mine or is it coming from the outside? If it's external and you realize it's an external thing, it's not internal to your subconscious mind, then you ask, what's the percentage is mine, what's not mine? Then the next question, the next thing you need to do is to identify, what am I feeling? What exactly am I feeling? What exactly is it? Is it insecurity? Is it fear? Is it however it shows up? And whatever shows up that's at the core of it, you take all of it and you ask your higher power, however it shows up for you, create your own prayer. I've been sending you all prayers of late because they're coming to me as I'm negotiating myself, my liberation from these things. And I'm writing them down and I'm sending it to you as a way to give you choices. Archangel Michael prayer, the one that was channeled in the Galactic Region Council, and the one that I sent a few days back, which is the Kuan Yin prayer. You need to pray to a higher power and ask for help and ask for mercy. Ask for help.
So you identify, I'm sorry, you identify what you're feeling.
Yes,
as
because
close as
if you're going to surrender it and offer it to God, you have to identify what the burden is.
Yes, of course. And then I can just
call upon your higher power, whomever you want, and ask them to come in and to help remove this burden from you.
Yeah. It's not something that you can like breathe out, or how we usually do.
My experience and the breathing out may create. Okay, here's the thing. This is where I'm going around and talking about the amnesia. The sensation of the splinter is so overwhelming that in one instance, it took me 2.5 days to remember the breath control technique.
Right.
I thank God I wrote it down because I couldn't remember. And when I went, I know there's a breath technique. I couldn't even remember because the unusual feeling was so disturbing to my consciousness that I couldn't even remember the simple step of the universal breath. And I had to open my files and look for it and read it again. And then when I did it, I began to feel better. And then I did a prayer to remove all the rest out. So there is an amnesia that it creates because it occupies your consciousness so much that it creates almost like it erases memories of the practice that you know.
It's just overwhelming.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah. Okay. So you identify NUS, especially if it shows up in your core like that. It's not like your dantian will be somewhere in your chakras or somewhere in your body. And this is like you said, like I was on the bus and I was just that I had the moment to observe it. And I'm working on this codependence, the surrendering your will and power. So I kind of know what it feels like in my core. And then I felt something else, and it was like causing me to to give in, as if I was giving it permission, but I knew that I wasn't. So I was like, I know I'm not giving permission, so which part is mine? And that led me to quit it. And I realized it wasn't mine, but it attaches itself to your core. And then as it gets attached, it becomes bigger and it changes a little bit. It becomes more yucky and like weird.
It's disturbing.
Yeah. It's almost hard to describe. It's like a cocktail of
It's very disturbing. Now let me just say this. That insertion in your core is the last step. It starts first as a cloud in the edge of your consciousness.
Yes. I also realize sometimes part of it also uses the epigenetics.
Yeah.
So it's like using the whole energy body. It's
trying to find a weakness to get in.
Yeah.
So it exists. It starts at the edge of your consciousness. You may be in your peace and your serenity for several days, and you're fine. You're doing your practice, and yet when you go to sleep, and again, this is where sleep pattern disruption happens. You're not sleeping correctly.
And then it finds openings, and it could be more.
And if you're sleep deprived for a week, it creates an opening.
Oh yeah, and then that's why the DNA reconstruction is also important, because at one time we was still on the edge. I felt it couldn't find, like I felt like it couldn't find opening, and I saw it eventually attach itself to the epigenetic axis,
Mhm.
and that's how I found an opening.
Okay.
So DNA reconstruction is help, I guess,
Yep.
also will be helpful.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Pierre. Sometimes it's I have more clarity. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anybody else? Any other questions or comments?
Pia, when you were talking, it seems like all of us are having some experience in some kind of way that's related to you. But as you were talking, I heard this song. It says, "Throw out the lifeline, throw out the lifeline." You know, someone is slipping away. Now, if you were in that situation, let's say you were in an ocean or whatever, and you were floundering, when it's a prey to, you you would respond to that lifeline that is thrown out to you, and you would expend all your effort to try and get to that thing that would keep you afloat until you could find, safety.
Yep.
And I thought about how many things have been taught to us, you know, through songs, so that if you couldn't remember, what do I do? You're thinking, throw out that lifeline. And you may be the one to throw a lifeline for someone else, or someone may throw that lifeline for you. But the main thing is for you to reach for it, because for someone to throw it out to you and you ignore it, you you know you don't do and make what effort you can to reach that, you will still go under.
Mm-hmm.
That was the song that just popped into my head.
Mm-hmm.
But the other night I had this strange dream, and when you were talking, I said, well, everybody is getting some part of this. And in this dream, it seemed like I was in this city, and I had helped someone else get to their home safely. And then when I went to try to go back myself, I was in this like some kind of I felt like I had gone into somebody's gang territory, and these big menacing guys was there, and they wanted to know where I was going, who I was. And I'm looking around, and I see they have blocked every avenue out of this place. And I'm thinking, how will I get out of this place? And I'm thinking, as I'm looking at this man, because it was more than one person. It was like, I went from that one. I said, okay, I'll go this way. And there was another person there. And then I realized I can't get out that way. I'll go a different way. And there was another person there, and I couldn't get past them. And I'm thinking, how do I appeal to this person? Is there any humanity in this person? Can I appeal? And it seemed like I couldn't appeal to the person in any kind of way. And I didn't see any kind of escape, to come out of this place. And it was very dark, and there was big buildings and almost looked like factories or something, like that. And then I woke up. I went to the bathroom. I came back, lay down, and same dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what is this? How will I be able to get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
And I did not get out of that dream, and something lifted me out of the dream. I couldn't find my way out. Something lifted me out of that dream.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say, we're all going through something, but as we receive these, things, when you're talking, it's throwing out a lifeline of thought.
Mm-hmm.
Catch where you can to get safely to shore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, Celine, beautiful. And again, the dream is a representation of us feeling that the vultures that are the perimeter. This is exactly what I was describing.
Yes.
Sensation of being encircled by something menacing.
Yes, it was. It was very disturbing.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And again, it causes, for me, it causes me to awake and I can't go back to sleep.
Yes.
I don't want to go back into that place again. And the menace remain unidentified. And if it remains unidentified for too long, it infiltrates and it becomes a splinter in the core of my psyche. And then now I have to do all the work I just described to try to get rid of it. And I like what you said about throw a lifeline. You know, when I was in college, I worked as a lifeguard. And I used to throw the lifeline to people to save their life.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I'm throwing you a lifeline.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help you to try to understand what you need to do to help navigate you out of these internal yet externally created state of consciousness that, if understood and done correctly, will lift us. Because again, if you read the bardo and you only think of the benevolent deities as traps, you're missing the point. Each one of them, if you are able to follow the step and pray to the proper deity, you end up actually finding enlightenment. You end up finding a higher gift. So it's an opportunity for evolution and for growth. And I'm trying to help me, you, all of us find this, because I cannot do it for you. I can only do it for myself. The only thing I can do is to share the knowledge with you. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to say thank you again. That's all.
Oh, you're welcome, Samuel. You're welcome. It's interesting to me that and again, it feels at times, I'll be honest with you, overwhelming. Because again, the sensation, because for someone like me who used to having a certain level of, the peace and the serenity that I usually have give me a sense of control. I have clarity. I know what's going to happen. When you're in that state with that splinter that comes in, there is no control. Okay, you're just aware of the splinter and you're trying to figure out a way to get rid of it. And again, it creates the amnesia, because I don't remember the practice anymore. Thank God everything is written down, everything is recorded. Because I can always go back to it and say, okay, let me, you should have seen me like a fool going through my own material, trying to find how to do the universal breath. I know there's a breath I'm supposed to do, but what was the step again? I couldn't even remember, because my consciousness is so aware of the anomaly that is now in my core. And I'm so disturbed by it that I can't find a way to remember what would otherwise be almost like exhaling to me. So when you're having your moment sometime and you forget things and you're asking me in private sessions, could you remind me again? Don't feel bad, because it happens to me too. So it's important for us to be clear about these steps and to understand what is actually happening, because the way they operate is the same. All of us are experiencing, to a degree or another, some of the things that I'm describing there. And if you're doing the work, you will be able to overcome. You will be, if you're following the steps that I'm telling you right now, you will be. And again, praying to a higher power, you could create your own prayer. This morning, Marjorie and I were talking, and she was describing, after the morning class, she was describing Psalm 23 from the Bible. If some of you are more Christian, repeat that psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not. Repeat that song. Whatever works for you doesn't matter. if that is what actually will help you, then do it. If All Father helps you, do it. You need to ask for a higher power to come in and to help you. For me, the thing that happened last week and why Kuan Yin came in is that the word that kept coming to me in meditation was ask for mercy. And as I asked for mercy and I kept on going into the blessed field asking for mercy, and Kuan Yin came to me and gave me this prayer.
By the way, Pierre,
Yes.
this is what all of us should ask. It's for the mercy of God, the mercy of a higher being, Mother Mary, the celestial beings, the mercy of them on what's going on the planet right now. Because what's going on, whatever war is going on right now, it's happening in another dimension.
That's right.
And we are feeling the secousse. How you say that, Pierre? We are feeling the thing of it here on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bad war that's going on. It's really, really a bad war. And we cannot go through it alone. And we need that mercy. We need that.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
You're so right, because it's a war of principalities, a battle that's between benevolent good forces of light and darkness, and we are not capable by ourselves to, because what we are is pawn on a cosmic chess game, and it's up to, and if we can find be overlit by the mercy of a celestial being, we have a way to find safe passage.
Exactly. Thank you, Pierre.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm kind of asking again, but is it like a pray? Because I understand just pray in general for mercy and for help and pass the safe passage to the new earth. But as far as actually helping with that core issue or removal of whatever was inserted, is it still the same? Because some beings are more specializing in some things than others.
You need to be inspired by what works for you. For example, when I put the Buddha, the Kuan Yin prayer on Facebook, this woman responded as part of my, that's part of my contact. She responded and saying, all of your explanation are on point, but to me, Christ is the highest power that there is. Why pray to somebody else? But in our God concept, Christ is the key. So if
Right.
for her,
Mm-hmm.
if I gave her to, and I told her to say the Kuan Yin prayer for mercy, it would not work for her.
Mm-hmm.
So I cannot tell you, go to this person or that person. It depends on your God concept. And this is the reason why I'm trying to get and connect to as many different prayers as possible to try to channel different kind of beings. For example, I had posted a prayer from Madame Blavatsky and the Lucis Trust, and I can read it for you. The Great Invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seals the door where evils dwell. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. This is a beautiful prayer. And for somebody, that prayer will work.
Yes, no, I understand the different prayers. That's not exactly my question. My question is more if to dealing with specific, in addition to I'm not just saying instead, I'm saying in addition to just having a general prayer like that, that we can say for ourselves and for the planet. I'm just thinking for specifically to remove that that you have that external issue in your core. Is it also because sometimes you need to be more specific if you're asking somebody to remove something and they may not be doing these things.
I understand that, Ursula. This is why I responded the way I'm responding to you. My answer is still the same. The Kuan Yin prayer I sent you all is extremely specific, okay? It asks for very specific things, right? But this is one prayer. The previous prayer that came from the channeling from the Galactic Region Council was a completely different prayer, okay? I don't know where your God concept is. Depending on where you are, you have to connect to your highest power. And that's what you have to ask for help. As these other, and I know there are other prayers that will come to me. If Mother Mary is for you, the connection to mercy, and you're asking for mercy, maybe you pray to Mother Mary. If the Holy Spirit, call the Holy Spirit. If it's Jesus, call Jesus. Everybody has a different understanding of their higher power. And it's the higher power connection that will remove the splinter. It's not the prayer per se. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I think I do. I think I do. So this is specific kind, big, kind of little different, because it has to do with external issues more as opposed to your Dantian.
Yeah, but when it goes inside of you, it's the same in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. When you're facing these gigantic demons, the advice of the priest who's reading the text to the person who is deceased, who's transitioning, is the same thing. Pray to Buddha, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And if you have no connection to it, pray generally to your teacher. And if you don't have a teacher, pray to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you're more familiar with.
So in general, we don't have to be specific as we have been in the past that, Archangel Raphael would only do, let's say, bardo wounds, or Archangel Michael is only for protection. You know what I mean? We don't have.
What you need to connect now to specifically is your highest power, whatever that is for you.
Right. Okay.
For me right now, what I need to pray to, and this is the latest thing that I got, was mercy. I need to ask for mercy. And this is me going to my own benevolent deity insertion in my call. I need to ask for mercy. Maybe that will change next week. I don't know.
Right. So it's good to have these different these different connections. It's kind of at a different level as well, and then you need to intuitively pray.
And that's right. That's right.
Wow.
And it has. This is where spiritual intelligence and agility comes in.
Right, because indeed, at times I feel that I want to, maybe pray more to the Divine Father, right? Depending on what it is. You're unique in that sense.
Yeah.
So and and at other times it could be Mother Mary. So that can also change depending how maybe intuitively you will know how your core is being
Yep.
impacted then.
Yep.
Okay.
You
Okay,
got
got
it,
it.
Ursula.
Right.
Thank you.
Terrific. Anybody else has any comments or statement that they want to make? Thoughts, idea they want to share? I hope all of you got triggered or at least or in deep thought over the conversation we've been having as a way to kind of like expanding your awareness over the subtleties, how these things are happening. Because in some ways, when you realize that stuff is inside of you and creating that splinter, it's a minefield. Because it's so yucky after a while. If you remain for too long, it's so yucky that you wanna take Brillo and try to scrub it out. Because it's not my normal state. It's not a comfortable feeling. Okay, if there are no questions or comments, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do the closing meditation. 5 minutes.
Ursula,
Yes.
I know you have a connection with the Sacred Heart of Mary. It could be a prayer to the Sacred Heart of Mary or Sacred Heart of Jesus. Because
Yes, I understand that. I understand that. Yeah, I have I've used the Psalm number 23. I use every day. I use the
yes,
91 a lot as well.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
All
no,
right.
that was not my concern. My concern was to distinguish it from the Dantian work and how we do the other how we surrender through breath and things like that, or we're specifically archangels to disconnect from archons, because it's a different approach. So
Yes, yes.
that's what I needed to understand.
All right.
Yeah, but I have the praise. Yes, thank you. I do.
Yes. Okay, sweetie. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Let your head and your heart sync with each other. And realize that you can begin now to perceive energies. (360 degrees). Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And become aware of any sensations, perceptions, and knowing that may exist in your core. Without any objections, notice what you noticed. become aware of any external influence or access that may exist in your call. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Whatever am I feeling, is it 100% mine? What am I feeling? What fears or insecurities this may be creating in me? I ask my higher power to provide me with safe passage and to remove this overwhelming sensation, disempowerment, and fear. Show me your mercy. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Hailed you be, the flower of the lotus. Beloved Lady Kuan Yin, the Bodhisattva of compassion and mercy. You who hear the cries and suffering of the world. Hear our prayer. We are overwhelmed by the planetary catastrophic events. We are afraid, in fear, and in panic. We are scared for our safety and survival in these perilous times. Blessed Mother, who took the vow not to leave any soul behind, do not forsake us. Grant us your protection, love, and mercy. Create a way for us to find safe passage, that the floods, hurricanes, typhoons, tornadoes, drought, wildfires, volcanoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis may not harm us and those we love. Have mercy on us, you who are the embodiment of universal compassion. Create a way for us to find safe passage, that the disease, pathogens, and maladies may not touch us. Have mercy on us. May your heart have pity for our profound vulnerability. Create a way for us to find safe passage, that the violent political and social discord, strife, and war do not destroy us and the world. Have mercy on us. You are the embodiment of universal love. Create a way for us to find safe passage, that the emotional agitation, poison rhetorics, and dark demonic influences may not blind us from expressing love. Have mercy on us. You are the embodiment of non-attachment. Help us find peace and neutrality. Have mercy on us. We surrender all these fears, burden, and emotional disempowerment into you, O Mother of Mercy. Bless us with but a drop of the elixir from your immortal flask, which contain your tears. And we will instantaneously be renewed, healed, and enveloped by your light, protection, and love. May your heart sink with our heart. Banishing all darkness away from us. May the divine and blessed field through you anoint us with the wisdom, the protection, that will give us the clarity to find safe passage. Grant us internal and external peace and serenity. And let us become your agent to help bring the rest of humanity in alignment with divine law. May all pain and suffering end. May humanity align to love, for it is the fundamental truth that binds all things. Hail you be the heart of the lotus flower, Kuan Yin, the mother of mercy. Have mercy on us. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Pierre. I felt a nice shift with that. It's very helpful.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wonderful, Janice. Anybody else? How you all feeling?
Thank you, Pierre. That was beautiful.
Mm. You're welcome. If there are no more comments, I just want to make wish all of you a Merry Christmas. There will be no class next Sunday, which will be on the 26th. As some of you may be connecting with your family, we will reconvene on January 2nd. So we will take a week off for the holidays between Christmas and New Year's as usual. And then we will reconvene on January 2nd, same time. Again, thank you all for being in my life. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to guide you. I love you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Pierre. I wish you,
Thank you.
you and all of you, very happy holiday season as well. And, let us say a new year better than the last, but enough to say health and prosperity.
Yes. Yes, we can still say it. Absolutely. We will exist in the bubble of Kuan Yin, and we will create it. Absolutely. Let's wish that. Let's wish
Yes.
that on each other.
Yes,
Let's co-create this. Absolutely.
yes.
Thank you, everyone. Deep love to
Good night.
all of you. Thank you all for listening.
Same to you. Same to
Love
you.
you.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
Thank you,
night.
everyone.
Good
Happy
night.
holidays. Good night.
Good night.